In this video, I'm going to walk you through the psychology first engineering behind 100K per month online fitness coaches. And no, you don't need to be a fitness influencer. You don't need a big following. You don't need to run paid ads, and you don't need to chase clients. So here's just proof that you can make 140K per month. And this client in particular only has an audience size of around 66,000 followers. Let's get straight into it. So why is this the number one needle mover? Now, let me be blunt, okay? Everything in your business revolves around this. So if this isn't right, you will always feel friction. And right now, you probably think the problem is tactics, right? Which is why you're always looking for new opportunities, new methods, and better systems. But because you're trying to scale mechanics without engineering the psychology first, that's what makes the mechanics actually work in the first place. So let me just show you what the sort of traffic flow looks like from an overview, give you the high level bird's eye view. This isn't anything revolutionary. At the top, you've got your traffic mechanism. You need to get attention. You need to build your ecosystem, your audience. So you're probably doing short form content, which is fine. You're driving people to your Instagram profile. Then you've got the nurturing mechanism. When someone follows you, now they're in your ecosystem. Now you've got this content engine running at all times, and people don't leave this ecosystem until they become a client. People follow you, they're watching your IG stories, they're watching your content. We use YouTube quite a lot and a video sales letter. Then you've got the conversion mechanism, which is the conversations, the sales calls, and then you're directing them to one offer. Then you've got the delivery mechanism, right? So onboarding, you should have a course, group calls, results. Then you're using the case studies, testimonials, and client wins to feed back into your nurturing mechanism. Pretty simple stuff, okay? Nothing crazy. Now, the problem is that most people fuck this up, like big time, and they don't understand the roles of each stage and what that's actually doing for the buyer at their stage in their journey, right? The journey begins when they become a client. They're a complete stranger, and that's essentially when they become a lead, right? And you're trying to piece together the parts that take them from being a stranger to a client in the shortest time possible. That is literally your only job. And most people, they just post aimlessly without real strategy or really understanding what psychological triggers need to be hit for someone to become a client. And not only that, but we want to do this in the shortest time frame possible. So let's look at the psychological roles of each stage. The traffic mechanism, okay? This is where we want to become an attractor brand, is what I call it, all right? Now, people mess this up because they're positioning themselves like a fitness influencer. They're copying all the other coach clones in the market, and they have no positioning, all right? They just blend into the noise. They blend into the sea of all the other coaches out there instead of actually positioning themselves as a brand that has this gravitational pull that brings clients to you. So what that actually means is if you try and please everyone, you end up pleasing no one. I'm pretty sure you've heard that before, and it's so true. And if you do try and please everyone, then you're going to have a really hard time actually converting these people. Yeah, you might be able to attract attention in the first place and build your following. But I've spoken to so many like big fitness influencers who are trying to make money from their passion, and they just can't do it because they have all this attention, but they don't know how to actually nurture those people and convert them. The goal isn't to go viral here. What we want is crystal clear messaging that speaks to the soul of your dream client. So what you're doing is you're engineering the offer, the target audience, all around your background, your expertise. You're basically packaging up the best possible transformation that you can give to one kind of person. And what you're doing is every time you talk to the camera, you need to pretend like you're talking to the same person every single damn time. And then what happens next is, okay, now they're in your audience and you're starting to attract the right people because you're actually talking to one person every single time, is, well, now you need to nurture these people, all right? Because only 3% of people who actually find you will be ready to buy immediately. The other 97%, it could be a few weeks, it could be a few months, whatever it may be, your job is to nurture them and to get them along this buyer's journey so they can become a client. And what you need to do here is engineer demand. Demand isn't created by explaining features, just having a generic coaching program that everyone else has. If your only sort of mechanism for delivering your service is just a training plan, nutrition plan, and check-ins, and you're talking to anyone who's willing to give you money, then you're going to really struggle here. What we want to do is actually look at the psychological triggers that will make someone want to buy from you as opposed to someone else. We've got their pain points, their desires, their level of certainty in what you do, which is more of a logical frame, because ultimately we're battling with the logical side of someone's brain and the emotional side. Both sides have to align, and they have to be in agreement that what you sell is what they need. So we've got certainty, alignment. This is why if you're talking to people who aren't going to resonate with you as much as someone else, then what you're going to end up doing is push away the people that could be great clients in an attempt to please people who maybe aren't really a good fit to be your client. So this is how this like misalignment comes about, is because you're not just doubling down on one kind of person. So that dream client is not looking at your content and thinking, fuck, every fucking piece of content hits. He's literally speaking to me every single time he makes a piece of content. Everything that comes out of his mouth is like really tailored to my situation. You're not going to have that effect. The next thing is proof. So actual proof that is tailored to them every single time. If you've got loads of proof, but it's a big variety of loads of different results from different people, then they're not going to really see you as a specialist. They're going to see you as like a generalist. And with the luxury of choice people have online, they're always going to go to the specialist as opposed to the generalist. Now, ultimately, people want to feel understood, and they want to know that you're the person who is the most capable of helping them reach the outcome that they want. And that leads us on to the conversion mechanism, okay? So we want to qualify and nurture buyers. By you making your program more exclusive and actually qualifying people instead of just accepting anyone that comes to you, what you're doing is you're being selective. Because you're selective, right, it raises someone's level of commitment and filters out any low intent prospects. Ultimately, it creates more of a demand for what you do. All right. People want what they can't have. And if what you sell is like super specific to them and they feel like it's the best solution, then why wouldn't they go to you? Because ultimately, if you're able to connect more with them than someone who has 100K followers, for example, then they're always going to choose you, because coaching is a people's business. They need to see that your methodology is the best methodology for them. They need to believe in what you're saying, and you're handling all these psychological triggers so that they choose you as opposed to someone else who maybe only they're relying on their social proof of having a big following to attract people. And anyone who is smart knows that just because someone has a big following doesn't necessarily mean that's the best program for them. And then you've got these systemized results. All right. So this is the delivery mechanism. So we always want to have a high ticket offer. If you're just selling low ticket offers, multiple offers, different tiers for different people, what you're doing is you're just going to create distraction. You're going to create confusion in your audience. And ultimately, they're going to have analysis paralysis because they're not going to really, truly understand that this is exactly what I want to do and what I need. And they're not going to have one path to follow that's simple. Whereas by you just having one sales process for one target audience, one path to follow when they're ready to take action, it makes everything so simple that taking action is frictionless. And that's kind of what you're trying to achieve. So you've got one specific transformation. You've got a community of like-minded people. So you've got higher standards, right? By you having a high ticket offer that's very based around one transformation, people subconsciously think that your program is very high value and it's very outcome driven. And ultimately that's what they want. They don't care about the process, you know, the training plan, the nutrition plan, like a fancy app or anything like that. All they fucking care about is the transformation and that certainty that you're the person who's most likely to get them there, based on everything that you put out in your content, based on all the social proof, which makes them think, oh, fuck, like all of these people are like me and they're getting shit hot results. By having a high ticket program as well, they're just more emotionally bought in. They end up getting results. So you end up working with less people. Clients get a better experience and they get better results. So it's a win-win situation for everyone involved. It's not just about charging a higher price. It's about having a program that's best suited to one person. And that's what really creates the identity change in people. And the level of commitment really changes behavior as well. So if you're just getting any old client in, low intent people, you're getting them in by the skin of their teeth, like they're having these really low payment plans and they're going to churn. But if you have people paying up front, you know, they're going to be way more committed to getting the end result. That's why we do everything here. Let's have a look at the broken mechanisms that cause conversion friction. Because what ends up happening is, let me just get the pen here. So you're attracting traffic, but this right here is what people fuck up. And they wonder why sales conversations are difficult. They wonder why they can't close people on the call. And they end up wasting their time with people who are giving them stupid objections that don't make any sense. People who ghost them and who don't want to hop on a call. Because you're selling the dream up top to any person, that's usually enough for people to raise their hand. But then what ends up happening is, because you don't have this part dialed in, things tend to fall off at this point. So people really struggle to get people from here to here. And it's all because you're not generating enough demand and you're not really speaking to one person. You're not creating enough resonance for people to actually follow through what they say they're going to do. So let's look at the broken mechanisms that actually cause friction. So up the top, we've obviously got short form content. You know, just because you're getting views and followers does not mean that you're in a good position to build and scale a business here. These are all just vanity metrics. And If you've got any experience with this, I've spoken to so many of these people. I even had a conversation with someone yesterday who has 14K followers and he has 0 clients, and he's been trying to get clients for a few months now, and it's just not happening for him because, you know, he's kind of nailed this part, or he thinks he's nailed it because he's getting views and followers. But then because this bit just doesn't align, it doesn't speak to every single person and can't clearly articulate why he's the best sort of solution for these people, he's not really becoming a true attractor brand, and he's not really generating enough demand to actually get the right people in. So it creates more of a headache, to be honest, because now that you've got all these people in your ecosystem, it's a fucking headache to try and qualify all these people and identify the hidden buyers. Where if I just take myself, for example, I've got 2,400 followers, and I know that every sort of 2 or 3 followers could be a good fit. So I have a low number of followers, a constant stream of followers, but it's very manageable. It means I can build a connection with everyone who follows me, follow up with them, nurture them over time. And that's how I have a consistent stream of clients coming into my program without much workload. Whereas if you've getting fucking loads of followers and they're just not a good fit, you're going to be stuck in the DMs all day and you're not really going to be getting anything out of it. So let's dive into the problems here. The problem is people post a lot of generic tips. They're being too safe and they're just trying to please everyone. So it creates friction because, yeah, you might attract attention because you're being quite broad with your messaging upfront. So people might appreciate the tips and tricks. They might follow you for that reason, but these people don't turn into buyers. And there's not like a real alignment with what you sell. They're just following you because it's entertaining. It seems useful, but they don't see your solution as the best fix. So when wrong people enter the funnel, everything downstream, right? There's a lot of resistance here, as I said before. The fix, right, is to be more polarizing and to speak to one person. So you need to have one mission. You need to fight for one cause, for one kind of person. And you need to push away anything that isn't that. So you want to be really upfront about your opinions. Being a little bit controversial builds leadership, it builds authority, and it makes people see you as a leader and someone who can really guide them to that end result. If you're talking about stuff in relation to why your solution is the best, you're going to attract the right people into your audience instead of just people who are browsing. Next is the profile visit. So, you know, if it's not very specific, you've got no positioning. You've got a vague bio, and you're giving off influencer energy, all right, instead of coach authority. It creates friction because if they can't instantly answer in the first impression, like, is this for me? Then they hesitate, and hesitation kills momentum. Now, they might follow you regardless because they like the piece of content, but everything else isn't going to get them along that buyer's journey effectively. So the fix is really having one outcome for one type of person so that when someone hits your profile, it's so fucking obvious that, you know, that you're the right person for the job, that they're going to be way more bought into your content. Your profile acts as like the first filter for attracting the right kind of people. And because I'm so specific in my bio, the people who aren't personal trainers don't tend to follow me, but the people who are personal trainers, they do. And then I make sure that my whole ecosystem after that point is designed in a certain way that every single piece of content speaks to their pains, their desires, and gets them certain about why my solution is better than everything else, why I do high ticket over low ticket, why I do organic as opposed to ads, all this sort of stuff. I'm throwing rocks at all these things and positioning myself as the best solution. Then you've got the nurturing mechanism here. So let's look at stories. The problem is that you have no strategy, right? Random updates, taking pictures of your food, random updates that no one cares about, it's boring. And you're not signaling yourself as an authority of someone who is a leader who can lead them to their end outcome, and you're not given any paths to follow. So it ends up just being random content that actually serves no purpose. So it creates friction because stories are so good at building trust. You can easily post 5 stories a day quite easily, and trust compounds. So if there's no belief shifting, if there's no leadership, if there's no work ethic, if there's no signals of you being a leader, then, you know, attention will stagnate and nothing's going to come from it. So you want to be showing your work ethic, sharing worldviews, showing the behind the scenes of you helping clients, what you're working on, show proof, and then obviously call to action so people actually raise their hand and take action when the time's right. And we're also directing people to bottom of funnel content as well. So let's have a look at the content. Generally, it's just way too fucking surface level, to be honest. So this creates friction because followers, they don't feel any gravitational pull because there's no deep messaging, there's no strong opinions, and basically there's just nothing to really latch on. So you end up blending in with everyone else. The fix for this is actually creating a whole belief system. Stop just posting tips and tricks. Stop just posting like, oh, here's what I eat in a day, all this crap. That doesn't convert clients, to be honest. You need to have people adopt your belief system, right? And your belief system is this whole mindset around what is actually required to take action so that they feel inspired, so that they agree with what you're saying. And ultimately, you're getting them to that point of being a stranger to being a client as quickly as possible. And you're positioning your methodology by throwing rocks at anything that doesn't align with your philosophies. And you're elevating their identity and their decision-making ability. So in my content, there's a mixture of value content, motivational content. I want to light a fire under their ass, belief shifting content, right? I'm handling objections in my content so that they basically don't have a leg to stand on. They've got all the information they need to see me as an authority. They don't have any limiting beliefs holding them back. They don't have any objections. And basically, they just have the mentality of someone who is ready to take action. And we're just doing this as quickly as possible. Let's have a look at the bottom of funnel content. Typically, long form isn't even being utilized by most fitness coaches to build trust and pre-sell at scale. That's why your lead to close time is 10 times higher than it should be, because people are coming into your audience. They haven't watched you enough. They don't trust you. They're not familiar with your methodology. They have no fucking idea why they should choose you over someone else. So what we do is, with my clients, we have a video sales letter in the bio, and then we have long form content that nurtures people, that builds watch time. And the funny thing about long form content is that, like, the difference between long form and short form is fucking huge. People are nurtured 10 times quicker because it's not like you're just one video of someone's doom scrolling session. They're actually thinking, okay, this title, this thumbnail resonates with me. Intro is good, speaking directly to what I need and what I want. Let me grab a coffee, sit down. And that right there is like 20 to 30 minutes of watch time. And if you've ever heard of the 7-hour rule, basically it's the psychology behind how much watch time or touch points someone needs with you before they're actually going to be willing to pay you money. So by us speeding up the process here massively with long form content that's super specific, super like deep, and really showing them in depth about how to think, how to operate, we're getting to that point of certainty much, much faster than if you were to only use short form content alone. That kind of brings us on to like the buying triggers. Ultimately, the whole point of this is to have them ready to buy. And for someone to be ready to buy, there are certain like thoughts that they need to be having before it makes complete sense. So things like they specialize in the exact outcome that I want. They're not just generic like everyone else. They're actually solving my problem, and it's all they fucking talk about. Like, it's almost boring the amount they talk about it. So they must be an expert in it, right? I'm certain they can help because their results look like what I want. So what they're seeing is just this constant flywheel of people in exactly the same position as them, getting the result that they want on clockwork. Not random wins, predictable patterns with people that are like them. I can relate to this person's story. So obviously one of the first things we do with clients is we deep dive into their brain, how they operate, their background, their story, their expertise. And that's what we base the offer around. Okay. That way, if we just target people like you, it means that they're going to resonate and relate to you much, much more than if you just try and target a niche because, I don't know, you might think it has more potential to make you money or whatever. But actually, by figuring out who you're going to resonate with the most, you're going to have much easier time converting those people, and you're going to make more money regardless. You want them to think, okay, the journey of this person mirrors mine. If they figured it out, maybe I can too. And they want to be led by someone who has already gone through the transformation that they want to achieve. They might be thinking their approach makes more sense than what I've tried in the past. This is because you're throwing rocks at anything that you don't agree with, and you're positioning your solution as the best one. You're shifting their beliefs from the old method to the new mechanism. This feels premium, all right? Because we're positioning it as a high ticket offer, one outcome for one kind of person, we're lowering the supply, increasing the demand, and we're not just accepting any old person, and we're making that clear in every step of the journey, in the content, in the lead up to the call, in the qualifying process, in the nurturing sequence before they hop on a call. So they're going to know, like, okay, this isn't just a case of like they're trying to sell me something. This is like an application process. So the wording and the position of this is much more exclusive than if you were to just sell a training plan, nutrition plan, and check-ins, which anyone could benefit from. That looks like you're just trying to appeal to the mass market. It feels like a high value solution. The path is clear, right? They can clearly see in your long form content, step 1, step 2, step 3, why it works, why other things don't work as well. You're justifying it, you're shifting beliefs, handling objections. And by the end of these deep dive videos, from a logical point of view, it just makes complete sense. They just want to walk the path with someone who has done it before. And that's what you're displaying in your content. Not trying to please everyone. You are opinionated. You're not scared to say it how it is, and you're not scared to put out your opinions online. And when someone strongly agrees with you, there's much more resonance. They're going to be much more emotionally bought into what you're saying, and you're going to repel the people who aren't a good fit. This person understands me, so they can articulate my struggles, frustrations, and fears better than I can, and they feel seen, not marketed to. Super important. I'm ready to take action. By you handling out limiting beliefs and objections in your content, their own like internal excuses feel very weak and their objections feel handled. It makes complete sense to then book a call with you. And at that point, it's more of an enrollment call as opposed to a sales call, to be honest, because you've done all this work in your content beforehand. And, this makes sense. There's logic behind it. Not only are you appealing to their emotions by talking about their pains, their desires, the struggles you went through and how you conquered them, but they can logically see how your methodology makes sense and why, it's the best way to get from A to B. When you have all of this stuff working in your favor, people are just naturally way more likely to pay you more money. And if you don't do this, you're basically a commodity in the market, and commodities, they're in a price war, because if you're the same as everyone else, then all it really comes down to is, okay, how can I get the cheapest version of this? But by you have gone this deep in your content and actually really engineering the psychology behind everything you're saying in every piece of content, what you're doing is you're creating yourself a category of one. And it's such a unique sort of belief system and way of operating that there is no competition. You are the only person with this solution, with this unique background, this personality, these views, these beliefs, that they can't then compete on price. Like they either want it or they don't want it. And it's as simple as that. So to conclude, you don't have a traffic problem. You don't have a sales problem or an algorithm problem. You're just trying to convert people who aren't actually mentally ready yet. That's literally fucking it. So you don't close strangers, you prepare them. By you handling all this and designing your ecosystem in a way, you're basically preparing them to become a client of yours. If objections show up on the call, it means they've survived your ecosystem and your ecosystem is weak. Something upstream has failed. And the real game isn't just more tactics, more posting, more testing creatives or anything like that, more DMs or more offers. It's designing the mental environment where buying makes sense. And if someone hasn't thought this is exactly for me, this makes more sense than what I've tried in the past, I trust this person, doing nothing feels worse, this aligns with who I want to become, then of course they're going to hesitate because you've not engineered the psychology yet. So it's not a sales problem. It's just unfinished psychology that you haven't handled in your content, which is why everything feels difficult. So the reason no one talks about this is because it's not sexy. It's not some new opportunity. It's just literally the foundations of human nature that people aren't capitalizing on and people do not understand. And it's not 3 DM scripts that convert. These are all tactics. These are all shiny objects. It's slower thinking. It's taking a step back and actually using your brain instead of just posting 3 times per day and hoping it'll work out, right? I call that post and pray. We're not doing that. When clients come on board with me, I don't just tell them to fucking post more or send more DMs or run more ads, because it doesn't make any sense. And everything is literally going to be harder if you haven't engineered all these foundational things first. This is just a volume game. If you're just posting more, sending more DMs, doing more without designing this first, then you're just doing more volume for the sake of volume. But the clients who make, 7 figures per year, they're not better closers. They just attract tighter, their message is more narrow, they speak clearer to one kind of person, they polarize harder, they push away things that they don't agree with, they pre-sell deeper, they harvest way more watch time than anyone else before they even have a conversation with them, and they remove friction before money is discussed. So, if you get to the point on the call where you do all this properly, literally the only thing that they'll say is, I can't afford it, which isn't a problem. You can't expect everyone to be able to afford it, but there's always a way to get someone through over the line by, payment plans, all of this sort of stuff. But that's kind of what you want, because money is the only thing you can't control. But them saying, oh, I need to think about it, or I need to speak to my wife, or I'm not really sure this will work for me. If you're getting stuff like that, then you fucked up. You fucked up upstream and you've not designed it in a way that puts you in the strongest position on the sales call. And that's it. So you don't need to get better at convincing. You need to get better at constructing a belief system. And that's the difference. Stop trying to close harder, start designing smarter, and make sure to subscribe for more. All the best, guys. See you in the next one.